talking to children about problematic and harmful sexual behaviour. It can be tricky as professionals to know what to say, when to say it, and how. This can sometimes lead to saying nothing at all, which doesn't help anyone and often leaves children feeling not believed, unheard, and worried. The language we use has power and can provoke hope, support the identity and needs of the child, or it can shame and blame. Those working with children often worry about, what if I get it wrong? Fear of getting it wrong can often prevent you from asking children anything at all, yet research shows that they need help to tell. I'll make it worse. Children need help to explore what has happened in a safe way with a trusted adult like you. I might impact the police investigation. It's important to recognise that you can talk to a child in many ways without fear of affecting any police investigation, and we need to remember that the child's welfare should be paramount. We need to use language that adopts a child first approach. See the child first rather than their behaviour. Is trauma informed? Describe the behaviour of a person rather than the individual, seeking to understand the experiences that led to the behaviour. And language which allows for restorative conversation, intervention, and supports the child and their family to move on. We know that it can be hard to talk to children about sexual abuse and sexual behaviour. It can feel complicated, emotional, and bring up personal values and experiences. Changing the way we talk to children and the use of language is a vital step towards reducing victim blaming of children. The power of words. When there are concerns surrounding a child's problematic or harmful sexual behaviour, stigmatising language should be avoided, and children and young people should not be referred to as perpetrators or sex offenders. Words carry labels and can stay with a child for life. It is important to remember that most children displaying harmful sexual behaviour do not go on to commit sexual offences as adults. We need to ensure that the labels do not stay with them. We need to change the language that we use to encourage practitioners to describe behaviours rather than using professional phrases. This helps children and families to have a better understanding of the worries and what they are working towards. We need to make sure that we are treating children as children. If children are seen as more adult-like, further assumptions may be made about a child, including the perception that they have more agency, autonomy, and choice than they actually do. It is likely that these perceptions of children will transfer into the language used to describe them, affecting the ways in which they are supported and safeguarded by professionals.
This write-up shows a real-life case example taken from a referral. The names have been changed. Jack is perpetrating dangerous sexual behaviour and they are at risk of becoming a sexual deviant. We need to remember that Jack is a child first. We need to remember that his behaviour is telling us something. We need to understand the context of the behaviour and use consistent terms when describing the behaviour. Hackett's Continuum of Sexual Behaviour is a useful reference guide. The child may be a victim of sexual abuse themselves and struggling to explore their own lived experiences. We need to understand their life story. We need to help Jack and their family move on by holding restorative conversations. Instead, try, we are worried that Jack is displaying sexually problematic behaviour and what needs he may be trying to meet when this behaviour is displayed. The whole family will need help and support to understand the behaviours of concern and to be able to put in place a safety plan and interventions. It is essential that this change is also followed through in our written records. When writing assessments and plans, we need to make sure that our records are child first, trauma informed and restorative. We need to recognise that like an iceberg, these are the surface level behaviours, and that what the child is feeling under the surface will be due to a range of other factors which we need to understand. Focus on the family, the whole environment, schooling, wider community, health, and not just the presenting behaviours of concern. The presenting behaviours may include touching themselves and others, sexualised language, or exposing their genitals, but is rooted in their feelings and experiences, for example, feeling isolated, distressed, or overwhelmed. Listen to a story from a child as to some of their own experiences.
It was a normal day. I went outside to get into the taxi to go to school when the police came to me. There was about 4 of them who ran over and they didn't push me, but they made me walk back across the road and into the house. They started questioning me, but they were being antagonistic, I guess, and they kept asking me questions constantly. They said when I was thinking I was trying to think of a lie, and they were using my mum, who was in tears, as motive to get me to talk to them, and they started threatening us, saying they were going to arrest my dad and granddad. I remember the IT guy said, I'm not going to be able to go to college or university anymore, and he told mum I would be on the sex offenders register. One of the female officers said to my mum, if you don't sign over the house to get searched, they're going to arrest me. I felt horrible. I was very scared. I've never been so scared in my life. It was intimidating. I felt small and like everyone was looking down on me. When I tried to tell them what happened, they said I was lying. I felt like they didn't want to listen to me. After they left, I felt depressed and angry with myself. I was suicidal. I had cut myself and I was thinking about jumping off out of a window. I just felt really terrible. I wasn't allowed out. I just slept for days and days. The day after, we were told the social worker was coming, and I got a shower and got ready, I guess. They were talking to my parents most of the time. One of them came upstairs to my room to see how I was doing. She was nice. She asked me how I was doing and checked up on me. The social worker said I wasn't allowed to see my sister because they thought I would hurt her. That was the final straw for me. I just felt 20 times worse because they thought I was going to hurt my sister. It just made me think, what the heck have I done? It split my family up because I weren't allowed to sleep at home. I had to be supervised constantly, and that put a strain on mum and dad. Because I wasn't allowed to go anywhere, I was just thinking constantly, which meant my mental health and state was negative by a million. I just felt life wasn't worth living. I felt like I was a prisoner and I was in solitary and on my own. Nobody asked me what I thought of the arrangements, and they only really checked up on me. I didn't get to say or tell my side of the story. When I got to the station for my interview, I thought what happened at home was going to happen again. I was so scared and worried when I was going in, but my appropriate adult and my lawyer were helpful. They both told me it would be okay. At first, I decided to answer their questions, but I had a panic anxiety attack when I was trying to answer them, and my lawyer took me outside to get some fresh air. After that, I gave a written statement and said no comment to their questions after the statement, like my lawyer told me to do. After they took us into a room together as a family to discuss it, and when my parents told them about what the officer had said, the officer who interviewed me said that she wasn't there and that she didn't know what had been said. She was trying to protect him. It took a while for them to get back to us, around a year. I felt like something was going to happen every time someone knocked on the door. Every time I heard sirens, I thought people were coming to arrest me. There was basically radio silence from the police, so I didn't know what was happening. It was a constant state of uncertainty. There was literally just nothing. Language is important because kids are developing, and you don't need someone using the language you use with adults. It can damage their mental state more. I was a kid at the time, and people were telling me my life was over. It will stay with me for the rest of my life.